Good to see everybody here. Hope everybody is well and happy, and thank you for wearing your mask. Julie has got to come down with COVID Friday, and so we're just being extra precautious. First, our charter requires the Personnel Commissioner to periodically study and update the compensation plan for the city. Commissioner Mosier has worked with Jessica and the MTAS to conduct a pay scale study, which was delivered to you last month. Commissioner Mosier has put his recommendation into the packet. We have advertised this as a call meeting, and now we will take action. Sammy, have anything you want to add to this?
Jessica and I will kind of tag team this, but what I wanted to say is this document came from a culmination of looking at several different cities that were kind of our size. Those cities being, and I'm going from memory, Jessica, was Kingston, Loudon, McFarland. Pigeon Forge was listed in there, but they're a different animal. What's the fifth one? Rogersville and Dayton. So all of those were very close, kind of comparable to our sizes, comparable to our staff, and close to our numbers. And what we did is we took from the lowest to the highest and came up with an average and a range. Now, one of the things, if you notice on the paragraph before, the partial director was like a 3.1% higher average. So what we did is we thought that would be a good starting place to add to kind of the lowest range. The first number within this set would be if someone was coming in, they would start, but the end number is a top out number. And then as far as, for instance, with John Campbell's position, there's several accreditations that have to happen and certificates that has to happen before that full pay would be applied. So there's several components that go into play. So is there any specific questions based on the document that we prepared and put out for you?
So you're saying that the city planner, you've got 61 to 66. So John, is he making 61 now?
No, and that's the thing that I was saying. There's multiple certifications that he has to do. So starting him out kind of where Chuck finished up, we would move him into that pay scale only when he reaches those certifications.
Okay.
Now, like and Jessica would help me out here, like with Eddie, he's already been here more than 5 years, so he would immediately go to the top out. Correct. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So with Jess, right?
Yes. I think John has been in this position
I think he's at the 3-year rate, so he would go to the 3-year rate on the new scale.
Okay. And then all employees listed within this this chart based on years of service would either go straight to top out because it's over 5.
Correct.
The other item that we wanted to point out is line item number 4. We had looked at giving a percentage within the overall budget for each commissioner to kind of use to give out as, you know, if you've got an employee that's doing an incredible job and you want to bump that pay, that percentage of those funds could be used for that as well. That's what line item 4 there in the letter was talking about. And then the scale also is continued with the cost of living adjustment as we move forward from this point.
So line item 4, that percentage will be set when we do budget?
Yes, That's correct.
So the certifications and things that each one of the department heads or these listed needs, are those all specified in job descriptions? Is that something that,
It is in the job description, and then in the actual document that I keep as the pay scale, which is an Excel spreadsheet, it lists over underneath the job title what certifications they're supposed to have for each one of their, for whatever their job is.
One of the things that we were also considering and thinking about using kind of the firefighters as an example is you have, you know, a range of employees. You may have one employee go out and get certain certification, you know, and with that, within that range, you could take and give that individual a little bump in pay because they have gone out and they're certified in hazardous waste or, you know, whatever that might be. But that component would give each commissioner some flexibility to reward, you know, good employees, because we all know hiring that person off the street and training them takes a whole lot more money than keeping that employee and bumping them based on their service.
well, I know a big thing right now, especially, I'm sure it's with everybody, especially in the business I'm in, retaining your good help it's hard. You know, it's, people can go to the next door and get a job as soon as they walk out of this one. To me, that's what, so I'm taking it, these will be retro to January 1st of this year,
Mm-hmm.
and then any other percentage that we give will be fiscal year when the new budget comes in. Is that, okay?
Yep.
Let me ask you a question, Simon. In the police department and also in the fire department, we have employees that have to do certain things to get their, it's not licensed, but to be able to do the job we want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some employees that are good employees don't do some of this stuff to get a different license in the profession they're in or something like that, because they just, well, I hate to say this way, but some people in school didn't do that good, but they're better out in the public.
Mm-hmm.
Say they don't wanna do these different jobs we have, do we just let them go, or just let them stay where they are? What do we do?
If I'm understanding your statement, my assumption is we have a standard pay rate for officers. The beginning officer comes in at X, over years of service, there is a rise in pay. But also what I'm hearing is there's certifications, kind of like with firefighters, that they can go after and basically raise their level of expertise and bring these additional skills to the force. There's those that are added skills, and then there's the standard skills that I'm assuming an officer would have to pass and qualify. What we're saying is that additional funding in line item 4, that's something that you and Eddie could look at throughout the year, and if everybody's standard, then they get the standard pay. But if you've got an employee that's going above and beyond the call of duty, literally, that percentage of funding would give you and Eddie the capability to say, I don't want to lose this employee. I want to give them, you know, a raise based on giving 110%. So that was the thought process there. Now, as far as employees doing their job or not doing their job, that within itself is a whole nother conversation. But what we were trying to do here is start with the department head and adjust that pay to be competitive to all the surrounding towns Plus, like Buster has said before, we have some of the best employees there is, we don't wanna lose them. So what we tried to do is actually come to a very good average and then go 3% on top of that, just to say, look, guys, we appreciate you, we want you to be here, we want your pay to be competitive and comparable. This is our best, not best guess, but this is our best attempt on putting you guys ahead, above and beyond kind of local communities of our size.
You know, we have some employees, well, we may not have that many here, but employees, some places, they just wanna be an employee.
I understand, and that would go back to just the standard.
Let me ask you a question, Sammy, I don't know how I need to ask this to get the right answer, or the answer I'm looking for.
I'll give you one I confess it.
We're gonna leave this up to the commissioner. Let me make a hypothetical thing. From a percentage standpoint, I've got X number of employees, and they're doing an excellent job. Now, if I wanna give that to, pick out one employee, or is anything that's gonna limit this to the point where I can say, okay, you guys are doing a good job, I'm not gonna do it this way, I'm gonna give each one of you $400 more per year. Am I limited to do that, or is it possible for me to do that?
It would be based on, and Jessica and I talked about the percentage that would go inside the budget. And the percentage would be based on the number of employees within a department.
Right,
along
obviously,
with-
we're not gonna give the same amount of money to someone that has 20 employees as someone that only has 4 or 5 employees. So what we're gonna do is, and I'm just throwing this number out there, you all are the ones who will ultimately decide which number goes in, because you'll do it during the budget process. So what I would say is, okay, if you have payroll of $500,000 a year, here's the percentage of that you have flexibility with. So Buster, nothing keeps you from splitting it evenly among all your employees if you want to. But it also, like if you had one guy that was gonna go to the TDOT class and get registered for right-of-way training and you wanted to give him a little bump for doing that, you could. So what this does is, rather than having to bring it before the entire board to vote on one department's raise for one person, or even one department's raise to split, it gives y'all the authority and a little wiggle room within the budget to be able to make those decisions without having to come, redo the pay scale or have to come before the whole board.
But
So nothing keeps you from being able to do that.
Well, we're not talking about next year's budget, we're talking about something now. But we need to keep in mind now, I believe there's 2 commissioners said here, and already informed the board that we need more employees.
Mhm.
I know I do, and I know he does. So let's don't run out of money before we get
Yeah,
to the point where we can get some more employees.
And that's the point in case that we're merely stating this is a suggestion of how we get here, and this suggestion of line item 4 will be set and implemented within the realm of setting up the new budget. So that, like I say, it's a vehicle that gives each commissioner some flexibility without having to come back, but it's also, it's in the future for you guys to be thinking of what amount and the percentage will be worked out between what's available, number of employees. But, it's like Jessica was saying, if one department has 20 and one department has 3, it wouldn't be fair for the 3 to get the same amount as the 20. So it'll be percentage based on the payroll.
So line items 4 and 5, those are entirely separate.
those are gonna be dealt with when we propose the budget.
So there will continue, so what, correct me if I'm wrong, this percentage in line item 4 is gonna be an extra above and beyond the annual cost of living. Yes.
And it's not gonna be automatic. If you go the whole year and decide not to spend that money, you don't have to spend it. It's not, you don't have to spend it. This is, if you want to, you have this authority within your budget to operate.
And that's, I mean, I'm read on down there, and that's, that was something I was thinking is, you know, I've got some guys that are in their golden years of their career, and they've got the certifications they've got, and they do a darn good job. And then you've got some of the younger guys that are just go-getters out there hungry for all the information they can get. So, I mean, as long as it's, as long as that's in addition to the regular cost of living, that's.
I think we were just trying to be proactive and create a vehicle that would give department heads and commissioners flexibility to reward and retain, as you say, good employees by showing some type of appreciation for effort. Any other questions, comments, or concerns, guys?
Okay, let's vote. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion for adoption of these recommendations based on the studies that we have found.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Let me ask a question. You said retro, this started first of the month, or did it start February?
It would start January 1st. They won't be paid until the next payroll on January 31st. But it'll cover January, just because that's the one whole calendar year. It'll be the same salary for the whole calendar year that way.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed likewise, motion does carry. Okay, we will come out of the call meeting and go into our workshop session. First, Fire Commissioner Richardson has 2 items to discuss for the fire department.
We've made, we're making as many steps as we can to try to get our ISO rating where it's going to be beneficial to businesses and residentials in the city as far as insurance premiums and being able to, as we grow with capacity, we're also needing to grow with the staffing that we have. ISO recommends we have 5-man shifts. We have a standard 4-man. Most of the time we're running with 3 full-time on a shift and trying to fill in with part-time as much as we can. But a lot of that is attributed to vacations and personal days, personal time off, sickness, comp time that could be used. We also really need to stay up to date on our inspections that we have to do. So I just wanted to bring to the board that we would like to add a full-time employee in the fire department, certified firefighter, to be a floater on the shifts that we need covered. If there happens to be a shift that we don't need covered for the week, they could be an inspector, go around to our businesses and check all that out and make sure that everything's up to code, up to par, as safe as it can possibly be. I think it's gotten a little bit better, but it still needs improvement. And as you can see on your printout there, how our call volume is going, 425 calls a year in 2016 to 750 in 2021. So 5 years, it's not quite doubled, but it's getting close. Anytime that there's a fire takes place, we're not supposed to enter with only 3 men on scene, so we're having to wait for off duties to get there. So we would like to ask for another full-time firefighter be added to our staff.
Just out of curiosity, Alan, is the new hire, is it a line item on the list of things to raise the ISO, or is that one, if we did that, it would bump us you know, a percentage or a whole point? How does that affect the ISO?
The recommendation, as you can see, on the bin here, ISO wants us running 5-man shifts.
Right.
Right now, we have personnel to do 4, as long as nobody's out for any reason. We can run a 4-man shift.
It's a conglomeration, Sandy,
So
of
it's a
everything
combine.
we're trying to do to get it coming
Well,
down.
all right,
it's-
so it's
it's
never
not-
gonna be no better than it is right now.
I've heard that before, and we did it better, so.
But I
Yeah.
just for my own understanding, guys.
Yeah, it goes along with everything else we've done
So
to this
just a
point.
group of things, but this is one major step to get, okay, thank you.
How come, Alan, this come up, I mean, we've been here years and years, and this has never come up before. Has it just been noticed? Hadn't nobody noticed it, or why all of a sudden do we need another man? I'm just curious.
I've been talking, John and I have been talking about it for quite a while. And when we can free somebody up now and get out and do inspections, the things that we're finding that businesses are more than ready to make their places of business safer, not only for their benefit, but for everybody that's, you know, take downtown, for instance, everybody that's their neighbor's benefit. The reception has been really, really good. And I believe that if we can get around to more of those with our aging buildings, we need to be inspecting those, and we just don't have the time with the staff that we have to.
Are you
to
talking
get to
about
those.
inspecting fire extinguishers and making sure they're full and stuff like that?
It's a lot more in depth than that.
Well, I mean, that's.
Yeah, the life safety inspections at all the businesses that ISO requires us to do.
Now, used to, I know a new building, you would all go in and get a diagram
We do
of
that.
it, and the exits and all of this. Is that part of what we're talking about?
And we were so far behind, Mayor, on ISO, that's part of it is making sure all those are up to date. And we were so far behind from doing it. I don't know if you remember 4 or 5 years ago, Doug wanted to do this exact same thing, but it never got voted on. Everybody talked about it, but then it never took place. To cover some of this stuff. It's a conglomeration. There's several steps that we've taken, and this is just another one of them. ISO, if I remember right, Buster, when I was hired, they were saying we needed 3 more firemen all the way back then, and that's been 25 years ago. So this isn't something that's just come up. This is something that's we put off and put off and put off. And manpower is a big number in ISO, plus the inspections are a big number. And we're trying our best to get the inspections done, but with our call volume to the point it's at now, you know, guys will go try to do an inspection, end up running 3 calls and don't ever get them done. And it's just the nature of the beast.
And that's only going to increase with all the people, new houses going up in the city of Sweetwater. Actually went to John when Red Stag broke ground. With that coming in, our call volume's only going to increase. And,
How many firemen do you see that we may have to hire in the next couple of years? I mean, if that's a good question.
We have put in for a grant to hire 3 more. This one would fall under that grouping. Of course, we got to get the grant, then we'll bring it before the board to see. But I would say in the next 5 years, I mean, the minimum of 3. A minimum.
Would this one count as one of
Yes.
those 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody okay with putting it on the agenda?
And I don't know if y'all caught it, we have put in for a grant to try to get paid for this. Now, it's the 2-year grant, we'll have to all agree to go from there, but.
Any problem with putting it on the agenda? Okay, you had something else, Alan, on the fire department disposal as trade-in?
yeah, we have, our ladder trucks finally made it to Knoxville. They're going to be putting our emblem, logos and all that stuff on it. They're giving it a good once over. It may be a couple of weeks, it may be a month, whatever it is. I don't care as long as everything's checked when it gets here. That ladder truck will replace that's a Pierce, John.
Oh,
The other old one, we got rid of one of them. I'll let, if you don't mind, I'll let John give you the details of what we're thinking on this as a trade-in, what we're looking to use that trade-in for.
we've got to buy some equipment for the ladder truck that we do not have, to make it where we can run it. We knew this up front. We were gonna try to do a little bit at a time, but then the people, the company we're buying the truck from, come to us and wanted to know if we wanted to trade in that old truck. Okay, let's talk. What are we guys talking? We're gonna need roughly $15,000 to $20,000 worth of tools and equipment to go on that new ladder truck. They wanna trade us that equipment for that old truck. My thinking, the last truck we sold, we got, what, 30-something thousand, which was a fluke in my opinion. I don't think it will ever happen again. This is a sure thing. We can get 15 to 20, whatever the numbers end up being, out of this old truck to go towards the new equipment versus taking a chance on selling the truck and only getting 5,000 and being short whatever we need to finish buying the equipment. So they're wanting to, boils down to is they're wanting to trade us the equipment we need for that old truck.
Okay. Put it on the agenda for February 7th. Okay, a copy of the library budget is in your packet, which we can approve in the February meeting. We'll now have an annual report from Sweetwater Director Tanya Rich. Tanya.
February 7th meeting. I'll be in Nashville for an orientation for the Public Library Management Institute. This calendar year for 2021, the library coordinated with the City Hall for the consolidation of copier lease under the city and repair of HVAC system Unit 1 for new motor, Unit 2 for condensation pump. Parks and Recs, personnel cleaned our library gutters, recaulked the cupola, prepared light fixtures, and delivered mulch for the flower beds. I attended 8 city meetings, 6 city department head meetings, 9 Main Street meetings, 1 county meeting, Arbor Day festivities at Brown Intermediate School, Police Memorial meet and greet breakfast with Red Stag Fulfillment, ribbon cuttings for the Shop Aurora Gifts, the Fitness Court, the Sweetwater Hospital Association, with Fort River Regional Library support and state and federal book grants of $7,084, purchased 15 audiobooks and 565 books, with a matching 50/50 Library Services and Technology Act Tech Grant of $2,262 for a total of $4,524. We were able to purchase 3 replacement computers, 1 laptop, 1 printer, and 4 new iPads. We completed the 2020-2021 CARES Act grant of $3,948. We purchased 3 T-Mobile hotspots that are available for checkout to the public, Wi-Fi extender for library parking lot and video conferencing equipment. We received PPE to include masks to hand out to library patrons. We've completed the E-rate forms 470, 471, 486 for internet discounts. We completed the Title VI survey, standard survey, public library survey, which is known as data collection. And the library received 2,700 in private donations, with 1,000 that unrestricted. The restricted donations of that was 1,650 were used to purchase books authored by females and blacks, which was the request. The library was accepted in the 2021 Public Library Management Institute. That's the orientation I'll be going to in Nashville on February 7th. The director and her staff have completed 131 hours of training in accordance with library standards. We've completed our physical inventory of materials at the library. We've introduced website card applications and e-cards, so you technically only have to come to the library just one time to update those things. We provided a booth and summer reading program kickoff at the city's Blues, Bluegrass, and Barbecue. We had 4 summer reading program events that were held at England Park in June. We also, at that same time, were hosting daily summer school camp kids at the library for a total of 550 student visits, 58 teacher visits. The library returned to pre-pandemic operating hours on July 6th, but we kept our curbside services. Prior to that, we were running condensed hours. Technical Services Librarian Cameron Scalise was hired by the state of Tennessee, so we had to get a replacement for her. Her replacement is Matt Riff. He started August 21st, so he's been trained now. Mira Patel, one of our librarians, has earned her Master of Science in Information Sciences. And Demetrius Jackson spoke at the dinner battle to the Kiwanis about all the library's programs. We've had 3 book signings and 4 art displays by NACA. We've provided 4 career coach visits in partnership with the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development to provide assistance with resumes, job applications, and job searching. We lost 3 more of our rose bushes at the library to rose rosetta disease, so we replaced them with mums and other plants. And our library volunteers included High School Service Learning, Tennessee Promise, Cleveland State Service Learning, Friends of the Library, Boy Scouts, Court Order, Community Service, and community members. And the results of that is kind of what you see here. And we're calling this, because this is recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Our numbers are actually coming up a lot better than we thought they would. Library visits for 2021 was 20,056. We've given away 441 masks at the library for 2021. Our computer usage is dropping down, but part of that is just because of all the Wi-Fi advantages and stuff that are coming into the area, and the fact that we're also serving those hotspots. And that lists here the physical items that were checked out, electronics, our programs, how many we had in our attendance there. And our volunteers, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of things without our volunteers. We had 345 service hours provided, savings of over $2,000 to the library. We had 194 patrons attend the summer reading program. And those hotspots are new to the library here. That shows you how many checkouts we've already had. And we've also extended the library collection. It now includes cameras, video games, and other non-traditional items that can be checked out. So there's even some tools and some other things. We have STEAM kits for the kids, coloring kits for adults, the adult coloring books and stuff. So different items to check out. We have a brochure here that lets you know all the different things and how to go about getting your library cards. Please come to pay us a visit. And I'll be a public librarian too, since I don't have a degree in Master of Library Science or Information Science. So this is the state standard, as I have to take this training. So that's where I'll be at for a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. You do a good job. I want you to know that we're proud of what you do. Thank you for doing a good job.
I couldn't do it without my staff.
Let me express my condolences about your rose bushes.
If you've not noticed, it's kind of around the city when they start to turn brown and they get a lot of thorns on them and they suddenly put up a lot of little heads. That's the rose rosetta disease.
I lost 4.
And you can't replant in that area with another rose bush for a while. Yeah. Yeah. Which they were beautiful too. I totally understand that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Now I'll give the floor to our city recorder to do a recap of the Rural Tourism Conference in October and the quarterly financial report. Jessica?
Okay, so the Rural Tourism Conference, we've talked about a lot, but I wanted to finally give y'all some numbers to back up what we said about it being a good thing. Our hotel motel tax was up 33%, and I didn't compare it to 2020 because that would have been cheating, because 2020 was down. So I compared it to October of 2019 collections, so before the pandemic, and the hotel motel tax was up 33% for the month of October when we hosted the conference. That translates to around $115,000 in hotel room sales inside the city limits of Sweetwater. We had, and let me just throw this out there for Planning Commission, you guys are very aware of this, but this is why we have to protect our interstate corridor and make sure we have hotels, because we had to send so many people to Athens. Our Airbnbs were all full and the Sweetwater hotels were full. And we had to, Athens got some of the money off of this conference because we didn't have enough hotel rooms. So the sales tax in Sweetwater was around $85,000 higher for the month of October compared to the year before. That resulted in around $4,200 more in local option sales tax. Gasoline tax is done per capita, so it doesn't really affect it when you have more people in town. But we did bring people in from other states, so we're hoping that there was at least a little bit of impact on that statewide. So Sweetwater Main Street, Haley is here. Hi, Haley.
Hi.
They organized a Main Street Bucks promotion, so every attendee for the conference got $10 in bucks. And some of the comments, I included the comments behind it because I wanted you all to be able to read them, because I know a lot of times you don't hear the good stuff, you only hear complaints and you only hear people whining about things. This is what tourism professionals thought of your city. So if you get a chance, read through some of those. I'm going to mention a couple of my favorites, but we gave every one of those attendees $10 in Main Street bucks to be spent downtown at different shops downtown. So we spent $900 in tourism funds, and we asked the Main Street business owners as well as they could, because it was pretty busy down there for 3 or 4 hours whenever they were open on this Monday night when they're normally not open. We asked them to try and write down what the total purchase was in their store. So they bring in their $10 Main Street bucks, but that person usually ends up spending quite a bit more than that. So off the $900, the reports that we got back, which some of the business owners were not able to track how much it was, so we got some reports back that were just, they didn't know. For almost $4,900, which is a 530% increase over that investment. So I'll take that return on investment anytime we can get it. But that was a really good measure, and Haley, thank you very much for doing that for the conference. I know the mayor talked to a few of them. Lamar was there with several of them. Sam was there for a while. Most of them made comments about how I'm bringing my kids back next weekend, or like we had so many of them telling us they were already back. One of the main complaints that was repeated was that we didn't have enough space. Well, that's because they told us the most they'd ever had at the conference was 125 people, so we got a facility that could hold 150, and then COVID hit and got delayed, and we had to socially distance the tables and everything, so we ended up with the largest conference they've ever had, which had over 200 people register for it. So yes, there was kind of a lack of space, but we did the best we could. Some of them are like, the Sweetwater girls are awesome, the business owners were awesome, everyone was so friendly, you guys did a phenomenal job hosting, the local team killed it. It was an amazing showcase of Sweetwater and TN. There was a city that actually has already brought back a couple of their commissioners and some of their Main Street people, because they're going to try and model their revitalization efforts after Sweetwater. And they came last month. I think we heard from them that they had come back. So it's just so many good, wonderful comments. I know the mayor and Sam or Lamar, they may have something to add to that, but I would love for y'all to kind of read through those, because it was really nice to hear. A lot of effort went into it. It definitely had an impact, and I think that it'll be one of those things that we continue to see results from for years to come. So those are the exact kind of people you want in your town, talking about your town and bragging on your town.
Well, I had 3. One of them was on the ground floor when they started this, and I had 3 different people tell me it's the best one they had ever been to.
Yay!
So.
All right, so moving to the quarterly report, it's more good news. Yay! So I'm just going to go. Okay. So all of this will be as of December 31st, so we're halfway through the fiscal year, halfway through the budget year. Yay! Okay. Okay, yes. So you can see total revenues. This is a little unusual, but it's in a good way. Total revenues, we've brought in 54% to date. Usually we're not quite at 50% on revenues, because property taxes obviously don't come in until February for the most part. So we're actually ahead on revenues of where we were the last several years, and our expenditures are below where we have been the last several years. So that's a plus. It's a 10-point swing. So the department heads are doing a really good job staying within their budget. Sales tax revenue, property tax revenue is slightly ahead of where it was last time this year, like 1 or 2% ahead. So not a huge difference, but good that I'm not worried about it. I want to show you sales tax. Every year I say this is going to pan off at some point, it's going to have to level off, and it just grows more. So this month, we just got the numbers on those today, and Haley did a deposit on that today, and Sonia told me this was one of the top 4 highest months that we've ever had for sales tax. So this would have been what people purchased in November in preparation for Christmas, and then they pay it to the state in December, and the state pays it to us in January. So there is a lag there. So that January amount of $302,000, that is just our local option sales tax. That is not the state shared sales tax. That is just our portion that we got as a city. And you can see the highest month we ever had was last year. probably due to some stimulus money, at 306,000. So we had a great November. I'm looking forward to seeing what the December shows. But that number, that 302,000, is not included in that year-to-date figure, which already shows you that year-to-date figure is higher than it has been. It's running $8,000 to $10,000 higher in sales tax than it was even last year, which was, it broke all our records last year. So sales tax continues to be our biggest revenue source. John called today for a grant to find out, because he had to know whether our bigger revenue source was property taxes or sales tax as part of the grant application. And I was so happy to say sales tax, because sales tax is such a fair tax and it's spread apart and it doesn't put all the costs just on the backs of the homeowners and the property owners. So I always love to be able to say that sales tax is our highest revenue and it continues to grow. So you can see that 10 years, it's consistently grown. On the minor funds, gasoline tax is actually a little bit higher to date than what is normal for this year. So Buster, hopefully that means a good increasing balance in State Street Aid. Drug fund, we normally do more revenues in the second half of the fiscal year or the first half of the calendar year. So from January to May is when we usually see more of those drug fund revenues coming in. So that's not anything to be concerned about. Tourism is coming in higher than expected. We're probably going to receive around $100,000 in hotel motel tax for the year, and we had budgeted for $70,000. So clearly, the hotels, they're actually to pre-pandemic levels and even a little better. So our hotels have recovered and they're doing a little bit better even. So we're really excited about that. Sanitation looks to be right on track. Okay, so expenditure highlights, the departments are within their budget. We do have a couple of big items still outstanding that we haven't paid for yet. One is the used ladder truck that they discussed. It's in Knoxville now. Some of our vehicle and equipment upgrades have been delayed due to supply chain issues. So we will be paying for those when we can, but the problem is getting them here. I just wanted to keep in mind that because we paid that premium pay, that will cause the payroll line items to be over budget for the year, and we'll have to do an amendment for those. But everything we've received back from the state shows that that's going to be reimbursed. It looks like every job position will be reimbursed because they have said that all local government employees were essential workers. So I don't think we're going to face a problem with that. So we'll have an offsetting revenue. But just keep in mind, if you look at your budget, it may look like you've overspent. Well, you really haven't, because most of that was premium pay. And even with that, you were still only at 43% of expenditures. So the department heads are doing very good. Just a reminder, turnover is expensive. It causes inefficiencies. Overtime, particularly in police and fire this year, is high. We're having to call in part-time people. We're having to work regular employees overtime. So there's going to definitely be some overage in the overtime budgets. The cost of training new employees is expensive. And just, I know, I'm just telling you this just to kind of keep it in the front of your mind. Family coverage for new employees and retaining employees continues to be an issue. So I put another call in today to a similar government agency, trying to pick their brain about what we can do on the health insurance to try and get better rates on that. But that's going to be something we're going to have to continue to work on and think about. Stockton always asks me about debt, so I put you a slide up here, Stockton, just for you. So the city portion of our budget, not including the education and utilities, we have outstanding debt of $2 million, right at $2 million. That doesn't include the note that we just signed, which didn't post until January, but that puts us at like 2.2. So we're still very low debt. If you're looking just at the city's portion, our annual revenue to total debt is about 28%. So we could write a check right now out of fund balance and pay off all of our debt. Like, we do not have too much debt. I'm very comfortable with the debt level. Debt payments for the budget, it's about 3.8% of our total overall budget that we're paying on debt payments every year. So the taxpayers are not spending a ton of money on interest or anything, because only about 3.8% of our budget is going to debt. You can also see the other line items for education, their balances, and that's as of July 1st. So obviously we've paid down principal on all of those things since then. Citywide total outstanding debt is 14 some odd million, and that includes the utilities and the schools, of which $2 million of that is ours here in the city to operate the city. Balances, these are our beautiful, wonderful, ridiculously good balances. You can see right now, not including the restricted funds like economic development and the COVID money that we've gotten, and we're holding in a separate account for when we can when we're told we can spend it. We've got over $4 million sitting in the bank right now, that's liquid. And then that $874,000 at the bottom, that's the amount that the federal government has already forwarded us on the COVID money that is sitting in a separate account. It's not earning much interest, but it's sitting in a separate account. And just a couple things to think about upcoming. I'm gonna be asking you all to write off uncollectible taxes. We don't do this very often, maybe once or twice since I've been here, so this will be for tax years 2004 to 2009. There's a total balance for all of those years added together of around $15,000. I'm gonna ask you to write those off because we've already had a tax sale on them. Some of them multiple times we've had tax sales and they're not selling. Or some of them, like, there are Medicare liens against them and there's such a high lien that we're never gonna get the amount for it, those kind of things. But it's a relatively small amount of money for 6 years of taxes. So I'm gonna be asking you to write those off at the February meeting. Then I just mentioned the capital improvement plan. I reviewed it with all the department heads, but if y'all will talk with your department heads about any major capital purchases, anything over $5,000 to put in the capital plan, we'd like to present that in the February workshop 1 month from now, and then hopefully pass it in the April meeting before we start working on the regular line item budget. Also, the regular line item budget will be delivered to the board by April 1st, so if you have anything you need to see in there, if you'll just let me know, make sure your department heads communicate with that with me. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Always does a good job for us. That means we all get a raise. Since everybody else does, that means we get one too.
There you go.
Okay, we are gonna have public hearing and final reading for the ordinance to rezone this February 7th. Partial on High Street. We will also have 2 requests for rezoning. Both are recommended by the Planning Commission. John, you have anything to say about that?
Sure, I'll speak briefly. Both of those requests that were presented on January 17th to the Planning Commission, we do recommend those for approval for the board. The first one being a rezoning request from commercial C4 to residential R3. This is over there behind the old Bellamy store. That entire block is zoned C4 commercial, and it's all housing, it's all residential, with the exception of the Bellamy's building. We've looked and we can't figure out when that became commercial or why it became commercial, but all the lots around it are residential. They're small homes, not only on that block, but the adjoining blocks. So this couple, Richard and Teresa Fort, they own a lot on Branch Street, 906 Branch Street, and a lot on Beardshire, 303 Beardshire Street. The 2 lots connect, and so they're requesting rezoning to R3, and the intentions are to put a home there. So we had recommended that as the Planning Commission to be approved by you guys. Before I move on to the second request, do you guys have any questions on that first one? All right. Okay, the second one is a little bit bigger. It is actually the north side of 322, so it's presented by Jordan Mollenhauer and Cheryl Holla Holdings. So it's not the side where Red Stag is going in, it's just the opposite side where the dinner bell is. Yeah, and so basically he has requested rezoning. That is currently the parcels that it involves 012.00, 013.00, and 013.02. All 3 of those parcels are currently C3 and R1, and he's requested rezoning for C5, and which is interstate, and also for M2, which is heavy industrial. So what they have drawn as far as their plans submitted include a restaurant pad right there where Dinner Bell currently sits, as well as a fuel stop pad, and on behind it a larger industrial type building similar to the one on Red Stag. So their request is to rezone to C5 and M2, which would better suit that for that development.
Okay. Any questions? Also, coming up February 7th, we will have a request for a ADA lift for the train car. You want to mention that?
We'll be taking bids on that. This will be a lift that goes on the end of the train car that will let someone in a wheelchair be lifted up into the train car. So, our street department's done a wonderful job working on that so far, and we're kinda at the point now where we gotta get that lift in before we can do the next.